Hello and welcome to Random Roleplay. I'm Deven of the TRG Network and we're back with some more Rieba Planeswalkers. Oh man, not gonna lie, these last two episodes coming up and the nerves are setting in again. Kind of how they set in the first time around, and you might be able to tell that at some point during the recording, despite all the editing. This one was a bit all over the place. Now, let's get on with that quote. I tried to find a few hints. I have two main hints this time because realistically, I don't want to do what I did in episode 9 and be like, the whole episode. No, there are certain things that I feel going to matter much more. Specifically, in episode 25, in the second part of the finale. I hate being like, be ready to take some notes, but I'm going to tell you right now, the finale is a lot of info dumping. And according to my players' reactions, good info dumping. But you, the viewer, may have a varying opinion. All I ask is that you go in with an open mind, be ready. And don't go in expecting some big, grandiose final battle, because the fact of the matter is this is the end of a campaign, but this is not the end of a story. So with that being said, time for them quotes. Number 1. Mindafall is a land of hope. Kaiser is a great city for all walks of life. Hang on to that one. As for the second one, a little more general. It's not a specific quote, but it's the quotes of a specific individual. This individual, however, has not yet been introduced to you directly. So, I will put it this way. All quotes regarding a specific dwarf. Cling to them. You'll know this dwarf when you see them. But that's all I got for today, folks. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Now on with the show. And so, we return to the City of Doors, Sigil, and the party in the form of Cassius the Tiefling, Arudim the Half-Orc, Naleek the Half-Elf, and Crantor the Gallataur. Oh, and those other guys. Last we left off, the groups found a tout that would be willing to take them to the Temple District in the Ladies' Ward, and made their way through the sulfuric smog crowding the streets of Sigil. Cutting through the warehouse district, as the weather cleared up, the party eventually comes across a Goristro, a massive siege weapon of a demon, and some dead Davis. Making quick work of the creature, seriously, even the likes of Naleek and Selva were dismissive of the threat. The group continued on their way, mostly dismissing the randomness, save for chalking it up to Coastal's efforts. Now, the party continues forth, nearing the Ladies' Ward in the now clear daylight of Sigil, as these two parties of adventurers get closer to the collective destination. And so yes, you guys all continue on your way. The edge of Sigil consistently proves to be the dullest portion of the entire city, especially here in the warehouse district. Some buildings around you, rather bland, barely even having those gargoyles and blade spikes that line most buildings in Sigil.
Just like Cleveland.
Just like Cleveland, sure.
They actually do have a warehouse district there that's very bad.
Yeah, no, it's pretty barren. You've seen almost nobody around here. And you guys will eventually see these large, empty, blade-tipped warehouses start to transition into much more dazzling architecture with much more organized roads, almost as if the two layouts were smeared together on one smaller road. Notably, there will be many Davis out working on the roads and buildings. This isn't really damage from the demon, because you guys are about 20 minutes from that location at this point. As you guys are moving into the Ladies' Ward, you guys will start to hear some dulcet tones slink and drift through the streets. Grim particularly, you'll catch this. This almost sounds like natural music. Not like someone is making it, but ever present. And further into the ward, the daylight starts to fade as you guys have been traveling for a little over a couple hours at this point. And the city is more so lit up by its own buildings and lights from all sides, literally, save for your left, because void, all that shit. And eventually, like, trying to break the silence, because this satyr that is guiding you is probably used to more socialization, and they're like, you know that music you hear, and it's actually a product of the Singing Fountain, just on the other side of the palace there. I should probably be moving you guys along the map, because you would have cut through Market Ward and... oh my gosh, did I just fling the token? Yeah, okay, I caught it.
So, a fountain that creates music sounds like a very nice little place. Does it do it constantly?
Oh yes, it is ever present. It's somewhere towards the center of the ward, actually. If you fancy seeing it, we could make a detour, but take it you all want to get where you're going quickly.
Everybody's ready to get somewhere we need to go.
Well, the singing fountain is always there. And maybe you might be able to learn a tune or two from it. The satyr jokes, reminding you of your lost bet. Oh,
We'll see about that.
Funkier than I thought, but yes, as you'll have continued on seeing certain sites such as mansions propped up on a higher elevation, the city barracks in the distance, which quite literally look exactly as they sound.
The higher elevation look natural, or does it look artificial?
Oh, it most definitely looks artificial, but I suppose even by the city standards it would look a little artificial as it's kind of propped up higher. The mansion actually looks rather large because when you passed by it, even now, as you're quite distant from the manor, I'll ping it once more, you can still see it vaguely in the distance, of course, because of the clear sky and the illuminated city, but also because it is rather massive. Aside from that, you'll have passed by various different towers and stuff. You'll see many different civilians lining streets, although as you get closer to the city barracks, you see more vagrants than not. Less families as well. But once making it to the park lane, so you'll take a sharp left turn, move to even closer towards the void, and at this point, evening is really starting to fall upon you guys. As you came out onto this main road, Yvonne will have clarified that you guys we're now on Park Lane. We might start seeing a few more casuals so you guys can rest easy, should you have been nervous. And he looks back at you all again, seeing the swarm of epic adventures. Who am I kidding? Almost like he's trying to, like, doll up the experience of Sigil, but you guys have already numbed to it.
Oh, don't feel too bad about it, man. It's expected when you come across people that are just constantly going on adventures, being attacked by people. Don't worry about it, champ.
Oh, thanks, I appreciate it. Says very sarcastically. But yes, as you guys are led to the literal edge of the city, you once again see these featureless buildings without windows lining the opposite end of the street, and the plain black above it. And you start walking down the street that's lining those, which is busier than it was in the warehouse district, but still relatively quiet for a Sigil street. It's being led down this way for, I'd say, roughly a half hour or so. You'll have noticed here and there some families kind of scattering the way. You'll actually notice on the opposite side of these featureless buildings and into the roads right behind it seem to be various park and playground themed buildings. It is very much meant to be a widespread park-like neighborhood, for a lack of a better term. So you'll notice that there's like a lot of families there kind of leaving for the evening.
What's like an attraction park? Small little attraction park?
It gives you that impression that it once was, but now it's just kind of become a feature of the area. Like, it's really dulled out. Yeah. It was once a spectacle, but now it's just kind of there.
Gotcha.
But at last, after continuing down for about a half hour or so, you'll have been led to a large square building stand head and shoulders above the other ones that are lining this edge. This building, too, has no windows. I put has no buildings. But yes, has no windows. However, it does have a stone sign that, in many languages, reads Temple of the All-Seer engraved in it. There's a stone door, roughly 8 feet tall, 5 feet wide, but it doesn't seem like there's any hinges or handle on it.
Oh well, finally here.
With that, my job is done, says the guy. Now, I'ma get out of here. I don't like all of that. And he just gestures at the nothingness. See you guys later. Visit a temple or two. Oh, by the way, don't worry about God chatter. You're in the temple district.
Appreciate your help.
Gives you a little
Whatever.
salute. And yeah, he's skipping off out of the building's ways.
Well, lads, I think this is it.
We're here, says Naleek.
Dante just lets out a sign, says about time.
I wonder how quickly we can leave once we've sought to our business.
Well, that entirely depends on how long our business takes. But no use standing around here.
Yeah.
Cass will walk up and inspect the door, kind of push on it gently.
Your hand immediately phases into it.
Oh, well, okay then. And just walks right through.
Is anyone going to immediately follow him?
Grim is. Like, it's one of these types of places. Gotcha.
Stealth?
Not really, no. You quite literally phase into a wall. And once you're on the other side, you'll see. But yes, as you phase in one by one first, Cassius, phasing through the door, you'll see a singular table in the center of this long room, where a single mind flayer sits in a lazy boy-shaped chair on the opposite side of it. Their tentacles reach out like roots into the chair, into the floor, and up into the ceiling, entangling into the ground and walls multiple times over, to the point where you're uncertain as to where they end. Standing in front of all of that is Kosel the Damning, as he turns back to you, and his eyes raise almost in surprise. Oh no, don't attack! Unless you want to be thrown to a random plane. He's very clearly expecting you. And one moment as... Don't attack, unless you want to be sent to a random plane. And sure enough, you see on the opposite end of the room is not a wall, but just black nothingness. Just like outside, just like the void. You all seem so speechless. And you'll hear a mechanical voice come out. Welcome, material walkers. I take it you are the enemy of this Rakshasa. And you see this mechanical voice box attached to the table in front of this mind flayer that he telepathically communicates to. Excuse me, I do not wish to invade your minds to communicate with you. And Koso glances over at the mind flayer almost in slight irritation, but then back to the group with that smug smirk once again. Welcome. It's unfortunate that you're late to the party. Me and Ollie here were just getting to know each other. You see the mind flayer's eyes roll over, even though they're pretty much just beads, to look at Koso momentarily, and then back at you all.
So what's your big plan? What are you gonna do?
Big plan? Oh.
Yeah, isn't that normally what the bad guy normally does, is spill about what they're gonna do after, they're in front of all the good guys?
And who are you? Is this one of your familiars or something? I mean, what is that? What is that thing?
I'm Grimwood Feetupete.
Am I supposed to be impressed?
Grim's staring him down very intensely,
And
angrily.
his smirk widens into a cheeky grin. Oh, Cassius, did you spend the gold all in one place?
Cass is actively not responding.
And Koso stays just glaring at you, trying with those beady blue eyes, trying to get, for clarity's sake, because I'm not sure if Tommy has actually seen him. Koso the Damning.
Oh no, I've not seen this individual before.
This is who is standing before you.
Gotcha.
Koso looks back over the mouse. Well, if you must know my big evil plan, I held you up long enough to get what I needed from Ollie here. And he glances over to Mind Flayer once more, which just sits stoically and motionless in his chair.
Do we get the sense that this Mind Flayer is enchanted in some way?
No, not at all. The impression that you get is Koso came here for the same reason you guys did, and held you up to get here.
Okay.
Yes, no, as far as you're concerned, there seems to be no allegiance here whatsoever.
Okay.
You all seem to be making this boring here. I thought I was going to get some witty dialogue, perhaps a little back and forth. I came all this way, but I see your game. But I'll be tending to my business in the immediate future, so I won't be seeing you all for the while. And granted, Crantor's contract specifies that neither me or my people can bring harm to you all, so rest assured I'll be out of your hair for the time being, but I'll still be watching. So do see to my deeds as quickly as you could. Okay, big boy?
Crantor gives him a 1,000-yard stare. He's not really emoted or focused on anything since the last fight. He just looks right through him.
But alas, I'll be on my way now. You all do take care. And he looks over to the All-Knowing, and he crouches down and lunges like he's pouncing at the All-Knowing and immediately vanishes. And lastly, the All-Knowing speaks up. I reside in a building next to the Void of Segu. I have a feature in this domain that will launch any individual into the Void should they attempt to attack or cast a spell.
Just Arudim in his mind. Thank God I didn't jump the gun again.
I was prepared for that. I have a chart ready to determine what random plane he would have ended up on.
Because you threw Kosel at us like this, I knew there was no way I was gonna be able to get away with it. There's no way. I was just gonna let it, like Arudim was like, oh my god, yes, finally. Wait, this is a trap.
This is a trap.
This is 100% a trap.
I take it you are here for my services as well.
Well, you wouldn't be much of an all-knowing if you didn't already know that.
That is really putting a damper on my mood. Okay, well, fuck it.
Well, allow me to fix that for you, Arudim. He wanted a reaction. He didn't get one.
That's not what I'm worried about. Actually, so how does this work, Mr. All-Knowing? Or what is your name? Do you prefer All-Knowing or a different title?
The All-Knowing.
I wish to be as respectful. All-Knowing.
The respect. That's All-Knowing. I choose to be respectful. Pause. All-knowing. No, that's fine. That was great. He says, your respect is appreciated, but any cadence will do.
Well then, how does this work?
First off, I would like to clarify something, seeing as you have come here by the name of the All-Knowing. That name is an exaggeration. My title is the All-Seer. The All-Knowing comes from me naturally being intelligent by most mortal standards, as well as the things I have come to gather in my long existence. This does not mean that I know everything. It simply means that my intuition and understanding have gotten me to this level of knowledge. Or rather, my spell is that of epic lore. Much like the spell legend lore, but on a grander scale. This spell takes the real name of a creature, location, or event, and displays it in full from beginning to its end, to all creatures within its radius. All creatures affected by the spell are trapped in conscious stasis, or real-time display of the event. It's instantaneous in actual duration, but otherwise lasts for real time for those who are affected.
So, speak up. That is actually very useful, but wouldn't that be a little overwhelming? We are going to witness an entire lifetime in an instant, each time this spell is used. And furthermore, doesn't that mean that the spell may not be able to be used by you again until the next day?
This is correct, Centaur. It is a 9th level spell, as you all know. If you are a spellcaster, you likely only have a single 9th level spell slot. I used it just now for the damning, as well as yesterday.
Just this look of just like a fucking course.
As well as yesterday. Yeah, it just kind of just sinks. So we're not going home tonight.
Bound to ask, what did you tell him? What did he ask?
That just sounds like...
Ursel used it first on himself, presumably to test the legitimacy of my power. He seemed stunned by the result momentarily, but even in front of me wished to stay collected. He returned just a few moments ago, asked once again to use it on Zariel, the Archduchess of the First Hail, Avernus.
Oh fuck. Oh fuck! Oh no! Sorry, that's just me out of panicking.
No, that's great.
I knew this would happen, but oh no! It's worse than I imagined!
You understand that this power can work on gods and greater powers alike, but you must provide their real name, not merely their god name. As I'm sure many of you who follow deities know, they take up the title that their god holds upon ascendance.
Thank you. Crantor looks at everyone else and says, so what's the plan? We wait?
No,
Cassius, we're sitting at a table. He's totally doing the Gendo Ikari thing.
Oh, Naleek already plops down and crisscross, and he's just like sunken. His spine, he's just like bent forward, just like in defeat.
Oh man. This is gonna sound a little out of character for me, but I think, Cassius, you need to find a way to get in touch with Zariel as soon as possible.
Master All-Knowing, do I have your permission to draw a weapon non-threateningly?
You may do so, of course. I will not permit your actions. I will simply understand if you are attacking, and you will be removed. It is not my will, it is the lady's. And immediately a gasp from Tuscan, Selva, and even Nala. Surprised from that
in respect.
My mans can just say the lady and not fucking die.
It's just like big, who are you vibes.
Noted. He's gonna turn and walk out.
Just phase right through
He's
the
gonna
wall?
walk. Okay, am I outside?
Yes,
From the outside, I will summon the packed weapon.
you do so.
I will dismiss the packed weapon and return.
Just as you dismiss it, you hear a very faint whisper. Blood gem.
What?
It was very whispery, but it was blood gem. It sounded like Zariel speaking to you, but it was extremely faint. Like it was very distant.
That's a good sign, given the fact that I've not been able to contact you this entire time. Yes, that is good news. Troubling, but not altogether bad. And he's just gonna walk back in, kind of muttering to himself about that.
Naleek leaves you be. Understanding how this stuff is. You'll let us know when you can let us know.
Well, add another question to the list. Well, to replace some of the ones that dear friend Mutated Tabaxi the Damned answered for me.
You said that all out loud, correct?
Oh yeah.
Naleek said, well, it sounds like we really have to reformat how we're approaching this. He's not answering questions. He's displaying people's lives or events durations. So I think that actually helps, because I had a lot of questions about Carrick, even though I said I only had the one.
But one does not... How can I put this? There is a certain degree of knowledge that one of his reputation comes to garner. Rumors, history, lore. Regardless of whether or not he sees what his clients see, I would imagine that it would be not altogether improbable for him to collect a certain degree of information himself. And he'll look to the All-Seer. Would I be incorrect?
You indeed would not be. That is not to imply that I remember everything I see, but I do have an excellent retention.
So, with that in mind, I have one question for you, and I will render payment if it's needed.
The price is very simple or very steep, depending on your perspective. Kobold's gonna love this one. The price is knowing. You'll invariably change your course of action. You will defy destiny, learning things you otherwise would not conceivably know. Furthermore, this is Sigil, technically. There are no alternate timelines, because of the blink portals. There is only one Sigil, but infinite timelines. This is where those timelines diverge and converge, and this is where the gods have no control. This spell is extremely hard to achieve, as it borders the limits of magic that the Overgods permits mortals to have. Level 9 spells.
Therein lies the request. I'm not asking you for your ability to use said spell, but have you heard anything regarding something by the name of a blood gem?
Blood Gem Park is a location here on the Ladies' Ward, opposite side of the Temple District, just bordering the lower ward.
You don't say.
Yes. Why is it that you ask?
Well, and he's gonna look straight at Arudim when he answers. Grandma wanted me to ask.
Arudim just, his eyes widen a little bit, just like, oh shit.
Perhaps it is you are referring to your power or your deity.
Or perhaps just a long, long distant relation. All of the above.
This is the Temple District. Certainly, there is a place of worship for them here.
But something tells me we need to go. If she's sending me a whisper in an area where I've not been able to hear her the entire time I've been here, well, I thank you for your assistance.
Surely.
Do you accept monetary compensation?
I have no need for it.
Noted. Then please accept my profound gratitude. You've been very helpful.
I shall accept this. Oh, he's like, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna be back here first thing tomorrow morning.
You do that. For right now, I'm gonna go outside.
I'm coming with. Just making it known. I'm not leaving till I get what we came here for.
That's fine. Boys, feel free to ask whatever you need to ask. I'm gonna try to get a hold of somebody. And he's gonna walk outside, and he's gonna summon his packed weapon, but he's gonna focus everything on it.
Yes, everyone's still present in the building at the moment, I imagine. Well, Naleek followed Cassius out. And that Tuscan kind of just... Well, I suppose we all should find somewhere to crash then, huh?
Looks like that would be the case. I guess we might as well find an inn.
Is there even an inn in the Temple District?
Arudim just walks outside.
Imagine you run right into Naleek and Cassius, who are just gonna... There, as Cassius is focusing on his packed weapon.
No, he would silently just follow, but he'd be last out of the building.
I'm honestly not sure if Dantu and his group are leaving yet or not.
It's just like we might as well go along with them. Unless they don't want our company. We can't do anything until tomorrow anyway.
Now I just let out a big sigh.
I just want to preference, since that guy made that little remark about Grim being a familiar, Grim's been just silent and just kind of eyes at the ground.
Oh no, he got under Grim's skin.
Yeah, he did. He got what he wanted out of Grim at least. Grim should have just stayed quiet like everyone else, but it's alright. Shit happens.
No, that's great. It just shows that it's the lack of experience with Coastal that, yeah, it works. Oh man, the plays. Alright, so yeah, everyone's kind of just chilling out in the road and stuff. So what's the course of action for the group?
Cassius is focusing his, not really much of a term for it, but all of his warlockiness.
His pact?
Yes.
His bond.
He's basically very introspectively focused on it and pouring it into his packed weapon.
And eventually doing so, you will get a sense of direction.
Is it southeast?
That's not exactly a direction, you get that direction?
No, that's a direction.
Yep.
I mean, yes, visually southeast.
Yeah, that's more what I was pointing
Oh, meta-wise, okay, I thought we were from a character perspective. But yeah, pointing, and technically it would be pointing up towards a portion of the sky.
The physics in this place are blowing my mind right now, but you know what? We're just gonna roll with it.
Is this the time when we fly through the center? Naleek says, probably with the most excitement you've heard in his voice, since you've gotten to Sigil at least. It's clear, you know?
Yeah, but what goes up must come down. And if things are stuck to what looks to be the ceiling here, I would imagine that as soon as we go about, give or take halfway, we're gonna be in complete free fall.
Naleek kind of purses his lips, and he's like, to be honest, that's kind of what I want to test. The physics of this place really does kind of get my goat. I want to understand how it works.
I think that's the point of this place, is that there isn't.
I would disagree. Just logic that we don't understand from our perspectives.
That's a fair point.
Sounded
Anyway.
like one of those guys. Sounded like the philosophers. No one likes a philosopher druid.
Yes, but I'm not a druid. And he'll wink. Arudim,
Yeah.
I know I don't have to ask, but how tired are you right now?
Not at all.
Good. Because I've got someplace to go.
Oh, back up.
Crantor,
He looks at you, still not saying anything.
you with me?
Slight head nod down.
And if he's coming, I'm assuming that means you're coming along too, Naleek.
Yeah, honestly, I think it'd be good to stick together for the moment. I mean, we're gonna be coming right back here, so I think it's better to travel as a group. That's worked for us so far, you know?
Speaking of, Grim,
Yeah, what's going on?
I've got a feeling like there's a place I've got to go right now. You want to come along, take your mind off of what happened?
Yeah, sounds like a pretty good idea, probably.
And who knows, y'all might get to meet Grandma.
I'll need to buy a fruit basket first.
Oh yeah.
Make sure to get some of those hell kiwis. I bet she'd like those. Jokes, Naleek.
There are hell kiwis.
I mean, I want to say no, but I...
You mean the
Be
bird or
uninformed.
the fruit?
I mean, if you mix them with some yogurt and some brimstone strawberries, you get one hell of a smoothie.
I feel like you're fucking with me.
I kind of am. I want to say no now, but now that you ask, I can't be certain in saying no. Maybe there are hell kiwi fruit. I mean, surely there's fruit in hell. I mean, hell had a lot of different things. We just saw a lot of the wasteland part of it.
But anyway, time's a wasting. Dantu, I'm assuming you want to come along too.
I'm gonna stick around here, actually.
That's
Going
fair.
to hell and the fucking tank is staying behind.
We're not
Well,
going to
then again,
hell.
we've got Crantor. Never mind.
We're not going to hell yet. We're just going to the hell park.
I was gonna fucking
hell
say,
park?
what the hell am
yes.
I?
Crantor is so quiet that Arudim just forgets he's around right now.
He's going through some shit.
And I guess it all depends if Nala and Selva decide to go along with you, but I'm not sure. If everyone's going, then I guess I have no choice but to come along.
Nala was be like, if I'll go with the flow, but honestly, I think it'd be cool if we found an inn so that way they can just come back and crash. And
Settled.
That actually is a good idea.
so it goes. Yes, I personally have done my fare of wandering the city with Grim, but I think staying stationary would be nice. She seems kind of nervous in expressing that. Like, she doesn't want to disappoint anybody, but she's like, I don't want to go anywhere.
Go.
So for clarity, Tuscan, Dantu, Nala, and Selva are staying by to get it in, and the rest are going to Blood Gem Park?
Yeah.
Okay, just one. Yeah, just stating it out, right? So I don't be like halfway there and be like, oh wait, someone isn't there? Oops. Alrighty, so...
So, I have a question.
Yeah.
Given the fact that I have this tugging feeling that's pulling me there, and the fact that I have... Where is it? That... How long is it going to take approximately for us to get there?
Well, seeing as it's getting dark, you know it will definitely be the pit of night by the time you get there, based on how its perspective is. I'm trying to put this in perspective as to where it would be to you, like vertically, because that's how it's indicating to you. It's indicating to you in a straight line, and theoretically, that would put it somewhere kind of above you, but forward, like this area-ish, but the ceiling. So if you'd probably estimate that it would take like a couple hours to get there and back, should you not get held up or lost.
Would we get lost if I had something pointing the direction, though? Getting back? Why, I'm not thinking about that.
Yeah, no, the term getting lost here, I think, is more relative to the situation. As in, not getting lost as in you don't know where you are at all, but getting lost is more so detours on the way to your destination. Or maybe, basically, did your GPS not give you the most optimal route?
There. And GPS in this term, the godly positioning system.
But ultimately, you estimate, yeah, it'll be a couple hours, and you could probably get there fairly smoothly. And so, with that being the case, we're going to fast travel. Ooh, I was not ready for this. Gotta pull up the description of the Lady Ward, really. This is why I went through the trouble of getting these set up for moments like this. So yes, as you continue on away from the void, you'll have noticed the building is getting very fluorescent almost, with the lighting and some of the decorations, and just in general, a fancy architecture this ward is very much trying to put on. The streets are still bustling, despite the falling into nighttime, although with more adults and a few more vagrants than I guess you would consider normal civilians. And you definitely get the vibe that there are things lurking in the shadows, but nothing y'all should really be concerned with. Sure enough, as you travel deeper and through that music that you've been hearing, that dulcet whistle, that dulcet flute-like running water, it gets louder and louder until it again starts to fade, as you've probably passed by where it might be. But alas, you'll start coming up on...
I imagine as we pass the Temple of Io, oh hey, I know a Naga that might like that.
Just kind of stroll by this location that seems to be labeled as the Park of the Infernal and Divine. I knew this was going to be an important location too, I just didn't think it would be in this campaign. Oh, okay then, yeah. You guys will probably have been speeding along these roads quickly. This is where a lot of collections of the crazy people in the city are. There's almost a cacophony of chattering going on in this park, as it seems to be quite the gathering. You can't tell if there's some sort of gang warfare going on, or if it's just some sort of rowdy, out-of-control party.
In his head, Cassius will say, don't fuck with me, I won't fuck with you. Your problem, my problem, my problem. Don't make your problem my problem.
Sure enough, you had a few people eyeing you guys as you were strolling by, you know, anywhere from fiends to angry-looking warrior to some goblin-looking motherfuckers. Not even sure if they're goblins, just goblin-looking motherfuckers. And lastly, you'll come upon these little fenced-in, very artificial-looking park. As you walk in, the grass, it actually looks vaguely familiar, as you all were reminded of the time you first landed on Avernus, in that vaguely forested area with lava running through, and sure enough, you see a little tiny stream of lava floating through it, and this park very much is made to resemble the more natural areas of Avernus. You don't see them, but you feel the presence of many lesser devils in the area. Cassius.
Anyone else feeling nostalgic?
Do I need to bully and flirt with from imps and devils again?
No, yes, you are making your way into this park, and you see some of these artificial bushes and trees. The grass even almost sways like there's a breeze to it, as the city lighting, aka the stars, light the sky.
Is it warm?
Yes, it is very lukewarm here. It is not Avernus warm, but it definitely has a different feel to the air.
Can I make a perception check to see if there's anything in my realm of eyesight?
Sure.
Keen perception.
You'll notice that there's roughly 24 imps and spine devils scattered throughout this area, hiding in the foliage in one way or another. Maybe even slightly underground, as you see some horns peeking out from what would conceivably be lower than the ground. All seem
Well,
to be
you
eyeing
do.
you.
Specifically me or the group in general?
Specifically you.
Oh, yeah, I'm Grandma's favorite, I know. That was out of character, not in character.
Oh my god. Grumbling emits from the foliage. Motherfucker, I wonder how he's feeling.
I mean, he is literally holding a blade that is summoned from power granted to him from her, so...
That's great. That makes me wonder, is Cassius a lesser devil or a greater devil? Surely a greater devil at this point.
No. It's greater devil or greatest devil.
Okay, buddy. Okay. Moses.
This boy.
Hey, I haven't met a devil that has yet to beat me.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
You
Grim.
can keep your smugness for now.
Grim, as you've walked into this park, you've been getting a certain uneasiness here. One that you haven't really felt since you were in Carrick's presence, back when you exchanged the stones for Tuscan.
Yeah, probably just out of pure instinct, he's gonna climb on top of Crantor's shoulder. He says, "Sorry, big guy, I hope you don't mind, but a lot safer up here."
Crantor, like exorcist, turns his head around and glares.
Okay, gotcha. I'll get down.
A big glare.
That's the most tempered reaction I've seen out of the victims of the Crantor stare. Grim must be resistant to it.
Grim is resistant because Grim is Grim.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Grim got back down and continue to look down and continue walking, that's all. Trying to ignore the uneasiness. Keep us cool.
Cass is gonna start walking in.
Wait, careful, Cassius. You don't want to accidentally shift to Avernus. You don't know if it's a one-way trip or not, you know?
Is that even a thing?
Well, Deus made it sound like this place has the portals to other planes everywhere. You don't know what it could be. We arrived in a random street, you know? I'm concerned that happens. I've been concerned about it the whole time, really, but this is the first time that we've traveled this far without a tout, and I'm just scared that our luck's gonna run out.
Here's the thing. Have you been able to contact your god the entire time you've been here?
That's a complicated relationship right now. I haven't exactly made many attempts. We are taking a break, I guess.
Facebook status, it's complicated.
That's straight up what's going on right now.
Start
Because,
seeing other gods.
yeah,
So yeah, I haven't tried, although we did pass by a place, we passed by, I think it was the Temple of Io. That would have been interesting to visit because, I mean, I don't know how much you guys know about gods or anything, but Io was the god that Bahamut and Tiamat were split from. Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
the only reason I bring that up is because the entire time we've been here, I have not been able to hear a word Grandma has said. But outside of Mr. Not Quite All-Knowing, I heard something faintly. The words Blood Gem. Coincidental that we find a park named Blood Gem, and it literally feels like an artificial version of Avernus.
So then what are you thinking?
She specifically wanted me to come here.
Now that you have, what's next?
Think about it. Why would she call me here the same day that mutated Tabaxi the Damned wanted to know all about Grandma herself?
Then what's the next step then?
Well, I've already told her, and I'm pretty sure I've explained to you guys that should it come to it, she has but to call me to her side if he tries to come after her. You seeing where I'm going with this?
I'm a little slow on the uptake today.
Kosal's trying to make a move for Zariel.
Specifically Kosal and Carrick. Wait, why wouldn't Carrick come himself? Would he really? What's his relationship? Now I just want to ask the All-Seer. And you've heard shifting in the foliage a little bit when Carrick's name was mentioned.
Cass is going to speak in Infernal, and he's going to ask for any of the imps, or well, specifically the Spine Devils, really. They seem to be a little less of the fuck with you type.
So do you approach them or you call? Oh, I'm sorry. Just go ahead.
He's going to call out to one. And not necessarily brandishing his sword, but very clearly showing that his packed blade is there, showing his tie to Zariel. And how do I want to put it? He's going to ask for one to come close first, maybe pulling out a few platinum.
It doesn't immediately react to the platinum, but it does. One does specifically. They kind of glide down to the ground and then start walking forward towards you a little nervously. You can get the impression that it's not necessarily the platinum that's influencing, it's just nervous.
Yeah.
As it approaches, it eventually gets about 10 feet away from you, kind of just stops there.
Cass will kind of squat down. He'll lower the blade, but he'll keep it in his hand. I know you have some sort of connection with home. And he's saying all this in Infernal, by the way. There is somebody who is seeking to overthrow the current state of it, and not in a good way. Zariel, for better or worse, at least brings some degree of order.
The Archduchess will speak at Anti-Peak.
Is that a place or a time?
You've come to know in Sigil that means midnight, pretty much.
Okay.
Just as peak would be noon.
Well, listen, we have something in common. Stay safe, yeah?
He nods, and then will swoop up and glide back over the tree, kind of into his perch, and you see snug perfectly behind the foliage in a way that just kind of just blends in.
Nice folk. I don't think I've ever met a Spine Devil I didn't like. Except for that one. Specifically, the one that flew away in the battle when we were right outside Knucklebone.
the one that led to everything.
That one is an asshole.
Whore.
The rest of them, though, misguided, but they've all been cool.
They've been pretty chill.
For a second, I thought you were referencing the one in the second episode. I was like, bonus points if you remember her name.
No, not her.
Yeah.
We scared the shit out of her. Ass is going to wait until midnight. He's going to mention to the group what the Spine Devil said, that she will speak at midnight. And he'll specifically say midnight. You know, because the whole anti-peak thing. What? Oh, midnight, okay.
Yeah, I imagine Cassius is the type to just, yeah, I'm not sticking with all the lingo. I know it as what I know it as. But yes, you will sit there and you will actually wait not very long. It feels like it's barely a half hour before finally you will hear. Young Cassius. Zariel speaks, the first time addressing you by name.
I came when I heard you call.
Don't you fucking dare.
Time is soon upon us. I will need your assistance. For my throne is being played for, politically more so than anything else. My army is dwindling, due to the lack of influence that I have been able to keep over them, as I'm sure you've heard of Carrick the Ascendant.
Damn, what a title. Fucking sick.
Do you understand? My fall is all but inevitable. It is a matter when and how it happens. More will be made clear in due time. Come to my fortress on our home world. Do bring your comrades. I will see to it that you are treated as kindly as possible.
Cassius is the only one that hears all of this, right?
Yes.
They would have heard him say, I came when I heard you call. So they would know.
Arudim just writes a note, walks over to Cassius, and holds it up in front of him. And it just says in common, ask what she wants as an I'm sorry present. Still need to make up for my bullshit.
He dismissively hand waves out, like, don't worry about that.
Arudim looks at Cassius like, no, you don't understand. She could look at me and fucking vaporize me.
I've got that sorted, it's okay. And he will respond, understood. And he won't say much else, but he will say that he understands.
And you look, that light hum that sounds subtly like friction that indicates the connection fades after a moment.
Arudim,
Mm-hmm.
you said you were experienced in political assassinations, correct?
That would be one of my specialties, yes.
Ironic. Hold on to that. Put a pin in that. We're going to need to talk about that as a potential last resort. Naleek,
Yeah.
we have a date.
Oh?
Grandma wants us all to go back to Avernus. She's invited us over for dinner. And it's regarding your old friend.
Oh. I was trying to think of something clever to say, but honestly, I'm a little taken aback by that.
I'd prefer not to have to kill him, but as I mentioned before, as a last resort, if I have to, I have to. Now, Arudim's history with political assassination is going to come in handy because it seems that people are vying for rulership of the plane.
The whole plane or the layer?
I would imagine that they're not going to stop with just a single layer.
They'd have
If
to
it's who-
contest with the other people in the other layers first.
And do you think they would be the first to have tried?
We need to learn how the hells work. We need to visit Fellhandle. He's a specialist on the Blood War. Surely he's got to know things about the hells that we really could use.
Going back and forth, back and forth.
Don't know how much time we have.
I don't mean right now. As far as I know, we don't have a clear-cut way back to Rieba.
No, but if you're correct about this being a place very close to Avernus, at least we know how to get back there.
That's a fair point. And then we can use magic to go places.
Or at the very least, contact Fellhandle and have him come get us.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, as things stand, I, at the very least, along with you, are going to be very caught up in what's about to happen on Avernus. But she wants us all there. And if you're going, Crantor, big guy.
He just looks at you.
I'm assuming where he goes, you go?
Crantor glances at Naleek, looks at him for a good minute, and he just nods at you.
And what about you, Arudim? You up for a trip to Avernus?
Give me a chance to actually take in the scenery a bit more.
And hey, this could be your way to pay back Grandma for the little, snide comment you made while you were under her own influence.
At this point, I'm just accepting that if she's going to hold a grudge against it, she's gonna hold a grudge against it. But to be fair,
I wouldn't worry too much
it
about
wasn't my
it.
fault.
Suffice to say, boys, I think we have a heading. Now, Grim, what did you expect getting entangled up with us?
Sure wasn't expecting to be going someplace other than here, but I mean, hey, if we could find our way back, then fine by me. I don't mind any detours.
I don't think he means that we're gonna go to hells now. Oh, no. We should have the whole group if we do that.
I thought you were talking about Secret Grandma.
Oh, when I say Grandma, that's just an affectionate term for Zariel, the Archduchess of Avernus.
Wait, do you mean that we're going to see her right now? No, he kind of jumps back.
The sooner the better.
But everyone else...
Therein lies the problem. On that note, we need to go get the rest of them.
At the very least, we can't stay here for another week just going and asking, all knowing about everybody. But at the very least, we need to ask about Carrick.
Well, we can take care of that in the morning.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. We should do that, and then I guess if I'm getting what you're implying, then we come back here and somehow try to go to Avernus.
It is the intent.
This place does not make me the most comfortable. I'll just have to say it. I'll also say that Grim doesn't look like he's too comfortable either.
I quite like it here.
I'm sorry, Cass. I don't mean it.
I'm messing with you, Naleek. It's too easy.
Oh, look, it's late.
Don't worry. Naleek, buddy.
Yeah?
you the only one who can cure that thing with our brains, or?
I don't know, Grim, do you know Greater Restoration?
I don't think I do. I don't think that's in my repertoire.
Well, at the very least, I'm sure Selva does. She can
Regenerate.
Regenerate. Well, that's an
Hey,
awesome
if we lose
spell.
a limb, that'll be great.
Wow. And then he just stops and he looks at you, Grim, for a second, kind of up and down. He's like, I'm sorry, I've been kind of underestimating you.
That's okay. Everybody does until they see me turn into a gigantic dinosaur and start shooting people's heads off.
Oh no, make no mistake. You were badass as that ape earlier today, or rather yesterday, I guess. But you're a very powerful mage. You use something like regenerate, and you said that so casually too.
Got a couple tricks up my sleeve. Let's just say that.
Okay. And now he's kind of just like looking at you guys back and forth, like gesturing at him, like, get a load of this guy.
Anyway, why don't we head on back?
And so you all make your way out of the park. Cassius, you get that one final warming feel of a hand on your shoulder as you leave the park, back into the cold muckiness of Sigil as it starts to get a little rainy. And then all of a sudden you realize, shit, you don't have a beacon back to the Allseer. But yes, with that being the case, you guys finally awaken in this relatively mundane inn. It seems to be lined with some sort of holy decor, like celestial looking doilies and stuff, and there's a lot of the workers have clerical garb, but it otherwise is very modest. It was not priced in the least. And you all probably gather up your huge collective of individuals and make your way over to the Temple of the Allseer. And so once again, you return to the edge of Sigil, where it is just simply a line of featureless and windowless buildings, an empty black void resting over it, and this large square building with the Temple of the All-Seer engraved in stone in multiple languages on the top of the building. You all phase in once more, bear witness once again to this empty room filled with the tentacles of a seated mind flayer, unraveled through the walls multiple times over, with that very void that was resting above the building also mimicking the back wall of the building.
Fucking Cthulhu, Lovecraftian little motherfucker.
But yes, you walk in, and once again, from the little mechanical box on the single table in front of the seated mind flayer, look, welcome back, material walkers.
Oh boy, alright. So then, what should we do? Looks to everybody else. I have no plan right now. Considering he can only help one of us a day.
I mean,
Honestly, the only one that makes sense to me, he points to Naleek.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
wait, we ask about me? Or we ask about Carrick?
No.
Okay. Just checking. My bad. Nolly kind of seems
Obviously.
nervous.
Take a deep breath, Naleek. Take a deep breath.
And breaking the silence will be the All-Seer. He'll speak. What is the full name of this creature I am using this spell on? Carrick Ostroth. Very well. And the Mind Flayer's eyes will start to emit like a slight gray glow. And before you know it, projecting out, pretty much encompassing the entire room, is a full visual, as if you've transported locations, but you were more so ethereal entities present during it. And alright, so first things first, I would like to give some disclaimers for this. If nothing else, maybe they're just my own paranoias, but there might be some sensitive topics explored here, just for narrative's sake. I do apologize in advance if that's like upsetting to any viewers, but that being said, I don't think it's going to be anything too touchy. Just put it out there so no one's like sideswiped. And again, this will be like an unconventional D&D thing in the terms of like I'll be narrating a lot. So I do want to encourage players, both in character and out of character, to kind of speak up or interact, because it's all going to be happening like it was explained to you guys earlier. It'll all happen to your characters in real time. So from your character's perspective, you're about to just watch a whole lifetime go down. So like that being said, you guys can still talk and communicate amongst one another while things are going on, presumably during like the more mundane parts that wouldn't actually be worth explaining, you know. So I just want to put that out there because I don't want to like just be telling a story at that point, you know.
Okay then, with that, Mr. Advy, why don't you take us away to the life and times of a one Carrick?
Alrighty. So the projection displays right in front of the Mind Flayer, and the first thing you see is a tiefling infant crying, being brought away from what looks like his mother who had just given birth to him. A doctor carrying him will be explaining to someone in slight distance. She's bringing the devils to the prime. Fiends cannot be allowed to course over the lands once more as they did in ancient times. You see, these doctors are very stoic in, their communications, almost robotic. And the mother, kind of weary from childbirth, derides him. You're not taking my child from me, are you? And immediately, the doctor responds, Zoldoff takes great precaution in the safety of our realm. The doctor will turn away and begin to leave the room as the mother starts to get frantic. A few other doctors start to try and calm her down as she, sure enough, starts to yell as we fade from this scene. And again, we flash forward, this time to a child tiefling, a bronze-skinned child tiefling with some brown rustled hair and a tail tip that resembles a scimitar, sitting in a corner of this orphanage, sitting in a corner while mostly human and dwarven children play throughout the room with their various toys and such. The tiefling boy is soon approached in his solitude by what seems to be a daycare lady and a middle-aged human couple. The daycare lady will, Carrick, this lovely couple would like to chat with you. And the woman of the couple, dressed rather fancifully, albeit in a more casual manner for higher class, steps forward and looks as she begins to introduce herself. It starts to fade out as you see the boy's eyes lighting up. However, it comes to a large, empty dining hall, and the boy seems once again down.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I also just kind of wanted to say that, at the boy being taken away from his mother, Arudim kind of tenses up and, crosses his arms.
No, yeah, I encourage that 100%, guys. Straight up, if you have to cut me off, do so, because as you see, with my nerves, I'm just kind of going right into it. So, I won't hold it against you if you have to interject. But yeah, you tune in this time to a large, empty dining hall, and this boy seems once again down, as he's quite dressed up, with his hair combed over and such. You see a butler-esque individual who's very large-framed human, but skinny-limbed. He seems to be wearing a button-up shirt, no suit jacket or anything, almost like he's unwinded for the evening, but he's still being very strict with the boy. You see this individual instructing him on posture and has him walking back and forth a few times, kind of testing at each go. And you notice the butler getting increasingly irritated, and eventually smacks the boy upside his head. Posture like that, you'll embarrass the masters. Now keep the chin up! So again, we fade away as you see the boy trying to temper tears. We flash forward to the butler and Carrick walking into a loaded dining hall with the same old elder couple, the woman and her husband, alongside them. The husband, a stiff-jawed blonde human in light blue long tux, seems to glance over at Carrick in irritation as some of the people in the room begin to whisper amongst one another, almost seemingly at the sight of Carrick. They have a tiefling. I didn't know they had children. They're looking rather dapper. Who would have thought they would hide their child? Did they adopt a devil's child? Upon being seated, the topic at this large dinner quickly became, of course, Carrick. And it very quickly became apparent to you all that the woman and the man who adopted Carrick did so as a publicity stunt. They paint this narrative that they adopted a tiefling child who was a toddler pauper on the streets and are starting to see just how mortal tieflings are. And throughout the course of this dinner, you all collect that this country of Zoldoff, which is the neighboring country of Mindafal, seems to be very anti-fiend. Naturally, as a result of this, tieflings are cast away from this land, but as of recently, the morality of it all has become a much more controversial subject. And throughout the course of this conversation, we continue to gather that the couple is trying to get ahead of the curve on that, and for the sake of good publicity. Carrick, however, throughout the dinner is mostly eating and not really understanding the depth of the conversation at his age. You fade out from Carrick, who's leisurely eating the best food he's ever had in his life, to now cleaning up this 48-person dining hall by himself under the supervision of the butler.
Arden just fiddles with his dagger uncomfortably, clearly becoming more agitated, and feels a sympathetic and empathetic feeling because to Arudim, this is a fancy version of his childhood. This is the posh, mirrored version of his childhood. He was only made to be a warrior. He was only conceived or quote-unquote loved because he was to be a resource.
And sure enough, he's getting laid into by the butlers, and quite frankly, you ate like a pig! And even carry yourself properly on the way out, how the master's supposed to convince the public that their cause is just if you fit in with the commoners. This is how the fiends are the most dangerous, when they blend in with the people, the butler says, frustrated as he's storming out of the dining room. And
remind me to whoop that dude's ass if ever I meet him.
He's probably too old to be alive.
And? There's
If
magic
not,
for that.
I'll take care of that.
you talk as you see Carrick clumsily continues to stack the plates and carry them into the kitchens. Eventually fades once more. Now to Carrick a little bit older, likely 12 or 13. He's doing some yard work of a very large estate, likely the place that he's been staying, which seems to be on the outskirts of a fanciful town he's kind of looking out to every now and again. And the woman who adopted him is somewhat watching over from the doorway, irritated it seems, of course, but a bit of a distance away. And Carrick again continues on in disappointment, but this time you can see that it's coupled with anger. Just then, faint noise is heard on the horizon. Soon, several carts, and then many carts are sighted. Several of them seem to have people poking out of or off of the carts and horses. And in moments, you see how armored they are. You see many Dragonborn, Saurian, and even a few lizard folk as they raise their weapons and let out a distant roar. Collectively. The woman gets frantic upon realizing this and demands Carrick come back inside quickly, but both are caught up in the fear and the awe, and he just stays put out in the yard. Surely, as the sea of soldiers come storming in and phasing through you all, almost deceptively like a 4D movie. You see the
Loki Arudim got into a fighting stance, but he was about to throw a punch, but then it passed through him and he's like, oh, right, it's not real.
Yeah.
It's so real, but wow.
And you see, sure enough, they sweep and detain Carrick, who doesn't even resist. And a few others storm the house, the remaining staying on the carts and heading towards the town. Eventually, you see, as things are going on, Carrick is collected up. You see this all in real time. There's just no need to narrate it explicitly. As he's kind of collected up and set inside of the cars, they see he's not risen, he's just a kid, you know? And notice a few other races amongst the knights at this point, such as dwarves, a few elves, and some kobolds. Carrick's now sitting on the end of the cart with a blanket over him, having explained his life at the estate, which you've more or less seen already. And eventually, two particular soldiers step forward to question him. It will have been this elf and this dragonborn.
Art! Look at that!
They're asking a few basic questions that you would expect to be asked. Eventually, the wood elf will give Carrick an ultimatum. Look, lad, much is unfulfilling for you here. We can just leave, and whatever this country does to you happens. However, Mindafal is a land of hope, and Kaiser is a great city for all walks of life. The Platinum Dragon himself sees to it. Tiefling are not looked down upon there. It's kind of a long pause. The event speaks up. No one's kindness. He says, kind of looking over towards the Copper Dragonborn. And eventually, Flash, try and minimize these a little bit. But eventually we will flash forward to a long string of regal carts traveling through very long plains with a deep forest in the distant background. See a banner waving from each and every single one of these carts. This is a banner of a dragon head in profile with several claw marks down the side of his face and 5 tails of all 5 chromatic colors spanning out. And this waves from each and every single one of the carts. Crantor, you recognize this. You've seen this everywhere you've seen Mindafal military. And, oh boy, Dantu, do you recognize this? As you've lived in Mindafal most of your life.
Artem's just like, huh, neat insignia.
Dante's eyes kind of widen at that.
Panning in on one of the carts, you see once again it's Carrick with these 2 individuals, as well as an unknown Saurian. And some conversation breaks out. The wood elf speaks up to break the silence. Nemeth, can he stay with you? And the Dragonborn looks up to the elf from the window, almost as if he was pulled out of his own thoughts. And after a moment, yeah, I'll take him in. He'll have a hard go of it otherwise. And the wood elf speaks up. Yeah, I'd take him on, but I already have Naleek, and I never exactly planned on being a father to begin with. You see Carrick look up to the elf swiftly, catches the elf's attention, and Naleek in real time kind of jolts up at this.
Arudim is like, jaw on the floor.
Carrick and the elf lock gazes for a moment before the Dragonborn speaks up. No, I get you. It's hard being a single father in the military. The elf doesn't respond, but instead continuing to stare at Carrick, who soon looks down. The elf raises his own chin a bit,
You know, I still love him, my son. Carrick kind of looks up as the elf continues. I'd never abandon him. I'll raise him to be greater than I ever was. With you all kind of getting the vibe that's directed at Carrick, Carrick gets that impression and, well, looks back down. Good for him. He kind of mutters. You get the impression that was some sort of guilt tactic on this guy.
You're just like, man, did everybody have a jackass dad? Like, our dad's just built to be dicks?
Naleek's like, I've been trying to tell you.
Me and my dad were best friends.
Well, good for you.
Mine.
I'm sorry. Just Naleek all over the place.
Well, if old dads are dicks, then don't be sorry. Say congrats.
But yes, and Nemeth will eventually speak up, kind of breaking the tension again. He's like, he was born to better circumstances, but now we're going to have those same circumstances. Carrick remains unresponsive, but Nemeth continues on. I won't ever claim to be a father, but you need someone to look out for you, and I think that it's best that I do it while you're here in Mindfall. I'll even show you how to use a blade so you can defend yourself. Carrick eventually nods and stays silent, but the cogs are clearly turning in the kid's head, and it flashes once more. As he's doing so, Naleek kind of looks a little confused. He's a nicer guy than I remember. Kind of like Carrick's adopted pops, and he always seemed like a bit of a jackass, but I guess it wasn't always that way.
Perhaps the outer front of jackassery was somehow loving? I don't know.
I wouldn't go that far. So yes, fading in once again, Carrick's this time in a large stone home in a much cleaner clothes, and his hair slightly less moppy, still pretty wild looking. Seems to have basic leather armor on as he heads out to the back to Nemeth, that wood elf soldier, and a young wood elf with combed back hair wearing similar leather armor.
Is that our boy?
It look like your boy.
It's the boy!
And sure enough, you hear
Arudim immediately compares.
You hear Nemeth go, "You ready to get back into it?" And reluctantly, Carrick takes Nemeth's, walk up and he'll take Nemeth's sword, which is kind of planted in the ground, out, and he'll begin sparring with the older elf, who does not hold back in the slightest, getting very overly aggressive in the sparring and taking advantage of the slightest little weaknesses. And finally, the
fucking PTSD flashback.
Yeah, that hit Stontu a little bit too.
Yeah, just
Elsalor, calm down! The Dragonborn yells, and the elf stops, slowly looking over to Nemeth. The elf stares for a moment, he takes a deep breath. Fine, you show the boy mercy, just like any real enemy wouldn't. He sticks his longsword in the ground in front of Carrick and steps over to the side. Give Nemeth his blade, boy. Use mine. And sure enough, Nemeth takes stance, and so too does Carrick. And
there's so many feelings.
And you hear yell out from the side, "Come on, Carrick, don't worry about your form," says the elven boy. And immediately glaring him down is Elsalor. "Excuse you? You're one to talk about form." The kid jumps like, "Yeah, but Carrick doesn't. His footing is real good, but he keeps worrying about it because you told him to always watch his form." And Carrick looks over to Elsalor, who simply says, "I can't babysit every little mistake the boy makes." And the sparring continues, and Elsalor's deathly stare down at the young Naleek as we fade out once more. And in real time, Naleek's eyes are wide as he's kind of blanking out. Subtle expression.
Can Arudim just, like, shake the shit out of Naleek?
Yeah. And he's just,
hey, is your dad dead yet?
No.
Do you want him to be?
No!
Are you
What's wrong
sure?
with you?
It seems like there's a lot of emotional and physical abuse.
That's... And he's kind of looking down as you guys are fading in.
I'm asking from a place of love, and I am asking from a place of somebody with experience.
It's kind of just leading in now again into seeing Nemeth speaking to a young copper dragonborn, which is kind of odd. You do not see Carrick anywhere. Is in the training armor in his living room. And here Nemeth explains, so some creatures, like tieflings, develop innate magic, and I guess you can cast Disguise Self. But look, and he kind of like tries to touch the Dragonborn's chest, and his fingers phase in. Doesn't hold up physically. And you hear Carrick's voice come out of the Dragonborn as he speaks. So, could I do this to be a Dragonborn or an elf instead of a tiefling? Not exactly. I mean, you could, but it's more like putting on an outfit than no longer being a tiefling. Most people, especially magic users, will be able to tell it's not your own form.
And Carrick kind of looks bummed out and kind of just drifts into his own room. And you sit there in real time, just kind of watching him as he stirs. Eventually, the form drops, and he's tiefling again. And a few minutes later, Nemoth will come in, and you'll notice actually kind of starts to, like, gloss over. And Naleek in real time seems a little confused at this, as there's not really much conversation being, like, heard. And then eventually, you just see them kind of, like, Carrick's face light up in a way he said, and he kind of just hugs him, thankfully. And Naleek kind of looks confused at that. He's like, wait, why did that just gloss by so fast? Like it was almost like it was disrupted or something.
Looks to the Mind Flare immediately for answers.
He does not remember. We fade in on Nemeth handing...
That's some bullshit! No, I'm just kidding!
And we fade in on Nemeth handing a thin padded vest to Carrick. And Carrick's immediate response, you got it from an Archmage? He responds, indeed. From Councilman Ulrich Helkroll. It's quite the favor, I'd say. It's at will? Nemeth confirms.
I'm sorry, who?
Ulrich Helkroll? I'll drop it in the chat.
Okay, okay, okay.
And all of a sudden it connects to the other campaign.
This wizard gets everywhere!
Get the feeling this is something I'm not privy to.
Yet.
World.
It's quite the favor, I'd say. And finally continuing on is Nemeth. You guys are getting the impression that this is probably like a vest of Alter Cell or something of that sort, based on the reaction and the conversation going on before.
Alter is actually physical.
Yes. Again, after a little bit of thought being put into it, Carrick will... I think I know the form I want to take. I don't really want to copy anyone around me, you know? And Carrick will put the vest on, and eventually he transforms into a sun elf. He'll have very bright orangish skin, and his hair will have gone blonde, but he'll otherwise have all of his facial features, and most notably, he will no longer have a tail, but having iris and sclera instead of the fully colored eyes. Which notably, you realize, Cassius, you don't have. You have iris and sclera, but most tiefling you've met do not.
Yeah, he got him from his mom.
I'm just gonna walk over here.
Oh no, Cass has long since come to terms with that fact. Like, he's already known that he never had those same pure colored eyes that a lot of tiefling has.
Zooming on, it eventually flashes to now a more grown Carrick, like a young adult Carrick. Training stanches and swings with much more smoothness and seems more secondhand nature at this point than anything. But again, still with Nemeth's longsword. He seems to be in the outskirt fields of a city with a large wall and seems to have dragons flying out and about over it in the distance. Very casually, mind you. He catches Carrick's attention a little bit before he notices Nemeth approaching him in the field. Casual clothes. Getting pretty good with that thing. Thanks. Carrick will just kind of like immediately dismiss him as he turns around to see it's Nemeth. And, taken back by that a little bit, we'll just continue on. Soon you can be a soldier yourself, especially if I make it into the Elite 40. Carrick will look away from the Dragonborn mention of the Elite 40s. So, is it really that important to you? And Nemeth seems intrigued at Carrick's remark, more so than the previous one. There's a slight moment of silence before Carrick breaks it. Me being a soldier, I mean. He kind of mutters as he's looking down. Nemeth, who is tensed up, kind of relaxes a bit, almost oblivious. And yeah, it's clearly been your goal since you came here 13 years ago, something like that. Yeah, you and Naleek have been training for this. You afraid only one of you gonna make the cut? That's his fear, not mine. I'm fine. Carrick kind of turns away dejectedly, continues practicing his swings and attack, and Nemeth will kind of lumber away as we move on to... You see now kind of flashing again, similar to it was before, kind of just smeared together as Carrick going through rigorous tests to make it into the army. You're almost kind of seeing them all at once, and it's confusing in real time to Naleek and certainly Tuscan over to the side as well, trying to understand how that works, if this is recalling memory. But yeah, you even see at some point in common clothes, Carrick and Naleek out pranking people in the city and dragons alike. At one point, they're seen flying on a young brass dragon, eventually up to the top of the outer wall of the city they're in, and even pranking some of the guards on it before escaping on said dragon.
Dragon was just like, okay, why not?
Well, the dragon seemed to be a little in on it, but again, Naleek's getting swept over.
Like I like that. That is a wholesome spirit.
Yes.
What's wrong? What's wrong with a couple of pranks?
Exactly, and you see a wave of emotion sweeping over Naleek, like almost like happiness, sadness, confusedness, and he just finally says, like, why'd that go by so fast? Why would he not remember that?
Arudim is going to put a hand on Naleek's shoulder. Perhaps it's due to what's currently going on.
Maybe.
Perhaps something is purging good memories. I don't know. It seemed 2 very good memories are being skipped through. I don't know, just a small pattern.
And you start to hear the roar of a large crowd. As it fades in, Carrick's sitting in the middle of said crowd. He seems to be dressed fairly well. Seated next to him are both Naleek, and next to Naleek is Elsalor, also dressed very formally. And many of the people in the crowd are phasing through you all as you notice the sea of people surrounding them, and a few dozen people on the outdoor stage in front of this gathering. And behind that stage, a gargantuan copper dragon with a regal adornment draped down their neck and streaming from their forearms. In front of the group on the stage stands Nemeth and an Ankylosaurian. The dragon speaks out in Draconic. Those of you who speak Draconic would understand this. Today, I have gathered my people to honor 2 of Mindefall's finest soldiers. They have respectively been integral in several key battles Mindefall has had to fight, including the most recent against the country of Zoldorf. I wish to honor these soldiers in the greatest way I can, and so I've called forth this ceremony to officially anoint Nemeth Delmirov of the Delmirov House and Ulen Sizkeri as the 2 newest members of the Elite 40. The crowd erupts and cheers. Carrick is still seated, looking up at Naleek and Elsalor, who are both standing up with the rest of the crowd. Naleek seems happy, but not overly excited, as he's noticing Carrick not standing up. Carrick is looking right past him, though, seeing Elsalor, who's clapping, but also scowling. And it's roaring.
A jealous bitch.
And the roaring crowd fades, as the vision does. In real time, Naleek seems surprised as the vision fades back in. I don't know, man. You seemed really detached ever since your pops joined the Elite 40. You hear a young Naleek say, in fact, more art time.
Oh!
You now see Naleek like this.
Oh, look at the boy!
And his buddy.
Look at the boy!
His buddy, Eric, in his half-elf form.
Ooh!
As they're strolling up the grassy path again on the outskirts of the city, as you saw earlier. And yes, young Naleek addressing. You seem really detached ever since your pops joined the Elite 40. And Carrick eventually responds, I'm attested something. Almost like indignantly. Naleek looks confused, but it seems like Naleek in real time realizes what he meant. And Carrick continues, I've been trying to be rude, see if people are rude to me back. Only people who know me are. Naleek thinks on that a bit, and as he's about to speak, Carrick stops him short. I used to be nice, and I was walking around as a tiefling, but was still kind of treated like crap, unless people knew of my pops. Even less so when I started being an elf. Even less so when he joined the Elite Snobs. And Naleek's like, but why is that such a big deal? Those who care about you are going to treat you right for who you are. Well, Naleek, I'm only one person. There's a whole world out there, and everywhere it seems to rank people based on who they are or what they can do. Just like here in Dragonland. Come on, your dad's better than Nemeth, but my dad joined their club instead. Look at all of the people in that group. Where's the elves or humans? That's fucked up. And you hear a voice from over the way. What's fucked up? You'll hear coming from this individual. A short, dark dwarf with a chin beard and smooth ponytail and the same armor as them, but rounder shoulder pads, standing leading a troop of about half a dozen soldiers. Well, do you want to share with us, or do you want to get in line, seeing as you're late? And Carrick kind of scowls a bit, looks at Naleek, and they both just joined the group.
I just need to say, out of character, Advy, the shadow work you did, Carrick, I see it.
Hey!
Yeah, no, these are great. These are really good.
I mean, it's perfect. The shadow behind him being his tiefling form.
Mm-hmm.
That's some good shit.
Thank you, fam.
It's the little things.
I appreciate you noticing those details. Oh man, a lot with that. As it flashes forward and you see this group of soldiers in a battle against a young green dragon within a forest of humongous trees. This dragon seems to have a damaged wing, which would explain why it's grounded. But at one point in the battle, the team loses a soldier in a failed dived attack. It's chopped straight in half. So the dragon catches it. This resulted in Doldor, this dwarf. Sorry, I just need to get him to the front again. The captain of this team, seemingly. He'll have ordered another soldier to attempt the exact same maneuver, knowing the outcome already. But it seemed like something went off in his head when that happens. And sure enough, the soldier reluctantly agrees, goes through with it, and perishes just as the previous one did. However, in this instance, the rest of the soldiers were able to strike and put down this dragon that was about to use its poison breath for the third time. Again, I want to reiterate that you did watch this battle in full time, and just did not want to go into the nitty-gritty details and make it a little too convoluted.
Right.
Now you have to do each of your rolls for each turn.
And you have to tell us what they rolled, what's their modifiers.
Whether or not they hit.
More of them are stated than you'd think.
Listen, you can't ruin my immersion, Advy.
I don't think Advy could ruin the immersion if he tried.
I know, right? This is so immersive. I love it. Anyway,
Oh my god, thank you.
no more
so
derailing.
much. This is... I was so nervous
I'm
about
watching
this
a
for so
movie right
long.
now, dude. Arudim out of character. He got popcorn.
You see that?
Yeah, no, this is like a full backstory of like a full movie. It's a Marvel movie right now. I love it. It's great.
Oh my gosh. So eventually, you'll see this group, after slaying the dragon and calming down, they'll soon be sitting around a fire with 3 wormling corpses and a young green dragon surrounding them in the background. Naleek, Carrick still in elf form, the dwarven leader, and several other dragonborn sitting in an extremely awkward silence. Eventually, Carrick, of course, is to be the one to break it. Doldor, I have been meaning to ask, why do you think it's okay to send our allies to their deaths? It's my job, retorts without a thought. Carrick's eyes widen in disbelief and anger as Naleek sinks back into the log. It's my job to make sure that this country can move forward when it needs to do so through combat, battle, and survival. Invariably, lives will be lost in that process, and it is my burden to place stake in individual lives to assure the best outcome for the large quantity of them that is this country's people. You can tell Carrick doesn't want to back down, but slowly lurches back into his little slouched over position.
I mean, Doldor has a point.
Yes, Carrick.
At least in this scenario, it's like, sure, 2 guys died, but we killed a green dragon, so...
Not only that, the implication with the poison breath, the green dragon was going to take them all out.
Oh, yeah. Like, so we all didn't die, but these 2 did. We will honor them, obviously, but, like, we're not dead.
Getting some Zuko vibes up in here.
Just wait till he speaks out of turn.
The silence... Oh my god. The silence sinks in for a little bit before Doldor speaks up. Yes, Carrick. Just like with Vanguard. There may come a time when I ask you to put your life at risk. And yes, Carrick. Just like Vanguard did. The right thing would be to comply. Carrick pokes back up, about to interrupt, when Doldor continues assertively. Yes, Carrick. I would die without a second thought if it was for the greater good of my men and our people. Carrick falls silent once more. Everyone else in the troop not speaking up or moving a muscle. Carrick subtly nods, almost like he doesn't want to but feels like he has to, and looks away from him for the remainder of the night.
Respect.
Doldor stands up and starts to adjust the dragon corpse as we fade out, and Naleek in real time at this point is pushing back his hair with a pensive look on his face. It's just like, oh my fucking god. You can't tell if he's about to cry or scream.
Arudim shakes him again.
And he's still there, but he's nowhere near as responsive as the last time. And now we return to the city setting of Kaisers. The streets, save for a thin strip in the middle, are swamped with people on either side. Very much crowded together are Doldor, Carrick, Naleek, and the remainder of their team as they await some carts in the distance to pass by. What is a row of 6 carts with open back ends to allow the many soldiers in them to be seen now barely holds any. Of the 9 remaining soldiers across these 6 carts, all beaten or scarred in some fashion, you just barely notice amongst them is Nemeth in the same state. I remember that so vividly. There's no way Carrick doesn't. Naleek, again confused and upset as to why this seems to be omitted or vague in Carrick's memory. And his birth! How does he remember his birth but not this? That doesn't make sense to me. And fading it once more, first thing you actually hear is Carrick yelling, as he's yelling at Nemeth in a locker room of sorts. Some sort of athletic style locker room. And you hear a faint crowd rumbling just outside the hall that Nemeth is standing in front of. So you come out here, use your skills to what? To gamble on yourself? Is that some metaphor of your life or something? And you see Nemeth getting angrier until the metaphor remark is made. But she calms down a bit, and he's like, you let the Elite 40 thing define you, and now it's more of a novelty to the country than an official rank. Now what do you do with that? Use it as a ring name for this Coliseum? You just stop pitying yourself and actually take a gamble. And Nemeth stays silent for a bit, almost with a pained look on his face. And he's like, I did, by being an elf. Now I'm treated better than I would have ever been otherwise. And Nemeth stands up immediately, almost retaliating, hurt by his words. Yeah, maybe if you were a dragonborn, I'd be treated better. He walks out. Carrick sits there in his silence and eventually fades out of his elf form as the vision itself fades out. And fading back in, you'll notice Naleek in real time, quietly tearing up, seeing that unfold. And we're back again into a rocky and sandy wasteland. Standing behind Carrick, who's running somewhat frantically. His sprint is cut short by a crashing boulder with molten imprints on it. Just in the distance, ahead of them, there are two fire giants holding their position, one of which is repositioning after throwing that very boulder. And you see the group, Naleek, Doldor, the other four examining their surroundings as three more fire giants are approaching them from the opposite directions, seemingly in pursuit. And almost as if they're getting frantic about not having any options, Doldor says, Men, at least most of us are dying here. Carrick, Naleek, and the other three look to him incredulously. We need to get past the two ahead. Naturally, that's going to take out at least four of us to do, assuming that you can't be serious, says one of the Dragonborn, a brass Dragonborn, interrupting him. Doldor goes on, I am, and interrupting me lowers the chance for survival. We have valuable information on the fire giants that the king must know. Our lives pale in comparison. I should not have to tell you this. Carrick speaks up, we aren't chess pieces. We should have a say in our own I'm sorry, not this time, interrupting him is Doldor. But I know who should survive. It's you two. A multitude of reactions as they now notice the two fire giants on one end spreading out a bit, and the three approaching, only to be a few hundred feet away. And to me, everyone, if there are three survivors at most, at least two should be non-dragonkin. With the racial tension rising here in Mindafal, it would be a statement to the public and to the rest of the eyes on us across the plane for dragonkin to survive. I don't need to explain how badly that looks. Lastly, in either scenario, my survival displays to the public the likelihood of the survival's arrangement. I will breathe my last breath in moments, men. And everyone's kind of taken back by that. And I will die a hero. My family will be fed by the king. My name immortalized in honor. And you see Naleek in real time kind of just melting at this, like, so fucking hypnotized, man. So too shall yours. Continuing on as Doldor. Naleek, Carrick, Hiv. Get the information about Slag Kongrike to King Gurogar. Magoo, Danos, Rock. Show them the wrath of Bahamut himself. And Doldor begins charging. Carrick goes running, and then the rest, lastly followed by Naleek, to the two blocking their way out of the wastelands. They blitz past the giants, but quickly two men are picked right off. Doldor is grappled and nearly crushed in one of their hands as he's caught, causing Carrick, Naleek, and the other two remaining to hesitate. And with all his might, Doldor yells out to the giant, You think they give a crap about me? I treated them like shit! You crushing me would only give them the satisfaction! The other two resume attacking, almost as if they were encouraged by that, showing Carrick to keep going, and Carrick starts to try and run off. Naleek, come on! It's a ploy, you know he cared about us a lot. Look, and the crunch echoes out. Pressing down Doldor's head with its thumb in one hand was the fire giant. But you see Doldor still barely moving, and the giant hammer fists his free hand into his own thumb, and a wave of blood splatters in all directions. Carrick grabs Naleek by the arm and somewhat drags him on his feet as their final two comrades, killed easily, also shocked at Doldor's death. The giants chasing them fall slowly farther behind as we fade out, and we fade back in. and Carrick sitting silent on those very same hills of Kaiser's outskirts that he met Doldor on in Commoner's Close, looking back at the city as Naleek approaches him in casual wares of his own. Just leave. Carrick, you can't keep wallowing like this. It's been months since you went on leave. I cared about Doldor too. It's not a... Just please stop. Carrick stands up and, dismissing him, starts walking back to the city, almost as if he's trying to avoid Naleek. Naleek starts walking off himself. And eventually the same situation is repeated. More so, Carrick out here, approached by Naleek, and Naleek will sit down to him, but Carrick will try not to react. So Naleek will break the silence. So, I wanted to tell you that I'm going to be moving. Spitting it out without any holding back whatsoever. Very uncharacteristic of Naleek. Almost unreactive, Carrick will respond. Oh yeah? Being a soldier is pretty unfulfilling. Besides, I get the feeling we were only in it to look out for each other, Naleek says. If you aren't going to get back on the field, then I'm going to go to Rieba and stay with some extended family. Carrick takes a while to respond, but good. You can finally get away from your father. Yeah, absolutely. Ever since he was anointed as a knight, he's been a bit over the top, and if you're not going to stay in the military, then maybe I should get into a better environment myself. Carrick looks over to Naleek, very sincerely. Yeah, you should. Fading out once more. I feel like I said that like 20 times. Take a shot every single time I say the word fade. See if you live. You're all standing behind Carrick now, who's next to Naleek, looking out to the ocean on a large dock, with a sizable ship and many people loading onto it, on the side of it. And as people pass by, Carrick pipes up. So you're gonna regret this in a week and want to come home? An attempt to joke for the first time in a while. Naleek, a little surprised by that. Sounds like you're gonna miss me. They go back and forth a little bit before finally giving each other a solid goodbye with a pat on the shoulder and a reassuring look from Carrick to Naleek. Naleek finally makes his way onto the ship, and in real time you see Naleek starts to tearing up. I wasn't ready for all of these memories, man. You see, once again, Carrick is on top of that same hill, but he keeps readjusting. From his back to his side, to his other side, sitting up, laying reverse, he just can't get comfy, and finally muttering to himself, "Do you want to get in line, seeing as you're late?" in a bad dwarven accent. Takes a deep sigh and rolls over, doing push-ups against the incline of the hill. You flash forward through many different forms of exercise that he subjects himself to get in better shape. Once again, bulking up to how he was when first joining the army. You've actually noticed he was getting skinnier and skinnier through these last couple of visions, and re-enrolls in the military after approaching the castle. We faded on Carrick doing well in the military between wall watches, city border patrol, or city street patrol. For all intents and purposes, this is the best Carrick's ever been in terms of a soldier. As he returns to barracks one evening, he's called out to by one Sir Irofor, the knight that is Naleek's father. And approaching, he's, "Carrick, I know it's been some time since we've spoken." He sounds a little frantic, "but I must ask, have you heard from Naleek in any way?" Seems confused, kind of looking around for a moment. "No, not since he left last year. He's missing," Elsalor blurts with a stoic look on his face. Carrick's eyes widen. "What do you mean he's missing?" "Staying with my sister's clergy in Rieva. She sent to me that he's been inexplicably missing." Carrick ponders for a moment. "No, I haven't heard from him, but I'll keep an eye out." Elsalor sighs, but ultimately thanks him and is on his way. However, once again, the cogs are turning in Carrick's head as he makes his way onward. And we now fade into Carrick being garbed up in a dimly lit room, opposite the side of the table with a large crystal ball that emanates a slight mist. A dark figure waving their hands over it, and until they speak that the one they search for is lost in the rainbow forest within the Feywild. Taken aback, distraught Carrick thinks to himself deeply, and you see Naleek in real time almost look a little embarrassed. After staring at the crystal ball for some time, once the spell ended, Carrick mutters under his breath confusedly, "Go to him, save him. But why?" And Naleek's eyes widen and he's like, "That's gotta be God talk." And Carrick storms out of the seer's tent and into the dirty and dimly lit city outskirts, wherever he's at, and you just begin to realize the city he's currently in was underground as the vision begins to fade. Now see Carrick riding in the side of a cart looking out the window, surveying the luscious green landscape that spans his view until finally spots a sign that seems all too happy to see. It reads in Common, Giant, and Elvish. Welcome to the Plains' 4th largest city, Miazad. Fading out, and again, Carrick's seen sitting in what seems like a private lounge on the couch, but sitting next to him is a very slender-looking orc. Standing across the table from him, a hobgoblin, and 2 others to the side seem to be an elven woman and a grayish-blue tiefling. They chat for a bit before standing up and gathering together, and the hobgoblin pulls out a tuning fork, which some of you may recognize is used for plane shift. They all lock hands as they immediately fade into extremely colorful and luscious forested area. Well, it seems to be very widespread out there, little glowing orbs floating about, many different indiscernible creatures from immediate glance, and fades into the next scene as they are all sitting around a campfire in this very location. Oh man, I didn't realize this was going to go on this long. I'm so sorry, guys.
Nah, you good?
Oh,
Don't apologize. This is great.
There's a fair
Keep going.
lore. Okay. Oh man. Like I said, this is very unconventional for D&D.
This is the second to last episode. We've been teased and blue-balled about all of this info for months. Don't understand.
But yes, as they're all sitting around a campfire in the Feywild, fire is barely needed as the multiple specks of light glowing illuminate the area quite fine. Additionally, the blue, purple, green, orange trees emit strange sparkles as well. The 4 with Carrick chat for quite some time about multiple things, but overall you gather that they've been in the Feywild for months now looking for Naleek, with Carrick only being brought into the conversation to confirm that he trusts the seer he went to. You'll notice Carrick go particularly motionless after confirming, and eventually having a realized look on his face. Cassius, Crantor, you recognize this, as you've had similar behaviors when speaking to your patron and deity respectively.
Artem's like, what the fuck is his face about?
Carrick will speak up and was blurting out, "Wait, he's in Bator now," and gets a guttural reaction from the 4 adventurers, bitching out Carrick in one way or another, much to dismay of the forest
Like,
around them.
gosh, dang it.
God damn it, this is the Feywild, now we gotta go to the hells? What the fuck, man? The floating lights and such begin to flicker, the flora begins to move very lifelike. Carrick bursts out, "Take us home, get us out of here." And the hobgoblin hastily responds, "Too late, I already have this one out." And they immediately fade out into a much more lit sky and a much more barren surrounding. The flora transitions into a sandy and ashy wasteland, and the starlit sky is now a murky red sky with fireballs shooting through it in multitudes. After the initial shock, Carrick and the adventurers begin to bicker over why they're in the hells instead of Rieba. They eventually calm down, collect themselves, realizing it's the hastiness that got to them. Carrick looks around for a moment, soaking in the scenery, and lets go of his elf form. Don't tell me everything
Fellow
stopped.
green boy.
Yes, that is the bronze tiefling. The 4 look at him in uncertainty, despite knowing he's actually a tiefling. You've seen them all traveling months together, and surely at some point they had to see him turn off the spell and back on again. But it seems to resolve as the scene fades away, and we return once more with them wandering through a rocky wasteland area of Avernus with pillars and such. Pretty much indiscernible to where they were before. You guys know this, you've been there. The hobgoblin eventually points down a formation with a plateau serving as shelter. Carrick starts rushing in, of course forcing the others to rush after him for safety's sake. As he gets closer, you'll notice an all scuffed up Naleek, starting to sit up from a slouched over position as the perspective of the spell centered on Carrick's moving with him. You guys are kind of moving while standing still, almost nauseatingly, I'd imagine. Carrick will end up catching himself on Naleek with how fast he's sprinting, hugging him in reunion. And as Carrick's patting Naleek's arm and armor, he's like, "How the hell did you get here?"
How the hell are you in hell?
Yeah, Naleek's kind of questioning how Carrick is there as Carrick's looking around, presumably for any hostile threat in hiding. "How did you know I was here? I've only been here for a few hours." And Carrick finally approaches Naleek again. And then Naleek's just about to go, "Were you already here?" And Carrick hugs him again. He's like, "I've been looking for you for months. Bahamut told me you were here." And Naleek's eyes widen. He's like, Are you serious?" Carrick's practically staring through Naleek at this point. And as Naleek's waiting for a response, he went like, "Hello?" Carrick seemingly snaps out of it and looks in the direction where the fireballs are coming from, which you all know is essentially the north of this plane.
Mm-hmm.
Carrick will finally respond, yeah, he told me you were here, and this plane walking group were already guiding me through the Feywild looking for you until I was told you were here. The Uruk yells at him, yeah, now let's get the hell out of here before we get caught up in some bloodshed. This plane is a battlefield.
Oh, it's not that bad.
Arudim glares at Cassius like, are you sure about that?
Yeah, I was affected by it just as bad as you.
So the group gets together in Link's hand, transporting back to the room that Carrick met these four in Miazad, capital of Radazard. Flashes through them parting ways with the adventurers and leaving Miazad in the cart. And flashing forward, they're still in the cart. Carrick's been rather quiet to himself for the most part, and Naleek will eventually speak up. You think you could avoid mentioning this all to my father? Carrick looks up to him in disbelief. He's like, then where have you been for months? Surely your experiences have affected you too much to just keep it to yourself. I don't want any problems with my father. Carrick stares in disbelief. Fucking kidding me. Carrick, please. He finally started to respect me before I went to Reroll. If I return telling him of all these planetary journeys, he'll have no other choice to respect you if he knows you've been to the fucking Feywild in the Hells. Or not respect me at all for abandoning Bomb. Naleek looks down, Carrick look away, as they both have a momentary glare in their eyes, like they try to stop themselves before the argument goes too far. No,
So much gay tension.
oh my god, no.
I'm sorry.
No!
I had to.
It's palpable, Advy.
Yes.
I have no choice but... Or even worse, what if he thinks I went to Tiamat? Carrick's head whips back to Naleek. Right after I arrived in the Hells, I heard her. She was trying to influence me as I was getting cornered by some militant devils near the Blood River, the Styx. I was a goner, but of all things, demons saved me. They started coming out of the river, and the devils ditched me to attack them instead. Carrick goes silent, almost like he knows something, but keeps to himself from that point on for the rest of the 2-week ride. And in real time, Naleek looks ashamed, looking at you guys, looking at Arudim, Crantor, Cassius, looking at you guys almost apologetically. Because you see in that vision, like, Naleek, right after that moment, is just staring at Carrick, like he realizes even then that Carrick knows something that he's not saying. But he just lets it go. And then we see it comes in, it's Carrick and a smith buying new armor and having his old armor melted down over the course of a few days, flashing through. It's seen, and he's leaving Kaiser in that new armor, looking up to the wall behind him one final time before continuing onwards. And Naleek, in real time, seems extremely confused, wondering what's going on. He's like, wait, where's the big fight? Didn't know. And Naleek just head bows down.
Argument or throws a couple of punches at the air?
Both. No, we hit each other. It was bad. And it fades in now. Carrick is walking up on a path surrounded on both sides by light forestry spanning the horizon, with a wide, clear-cut grassy path through the center, with a sign on the side, "Welcome to Dashbush!" You just swear you have to read it in that voice every time.
Oh god, is it gnomes or halflings?
He walks through this town with
Or is it squirrel folk?
Oh no!
He walks through this town with buildings hidden in or under the trees and other flora. You see dragonborn lizard folk, tabaxi, a few dwarves walking the roads. As Carrick approaches a long-distance taxi service in a small town center. Can I get a cart to Gallus? Do you go that far? The dwarf's like, that's pretty much the limit of my route, but yeah, I'm going that far. I just, not leaving until tomorrow afternoon, you know, I gotta give everybody a chance to get a ride. I actually have this one little gnome who's going to be catching a ride. Carrick kind of just sucks his teeth, but complies as he leaves and returns the next morning. Not waiting long, see a gnome squire and a robed gold kobold approaching. Yes, this robed gold kobold approaching. Adult, but gold kobold, with spear and such. Yeah, eerily familiar is this lad.
I like to think that they see this and everybody fucking slowly turns to look at wee little Tuscan.
Looks back over at you guys. What? I think I actually look rather different.
No, but just looks at him, looks at this, like, bro, did you know him?
Yes! We've explained that. Watch. Tuscan just says, oh my god. The question, you see Tuscan seeming very friendly with this little gnome squire. Carrick rolls his eyes and scoffs it off as they're making jokes about one another's clothes and being particularly annoying with one another, but in a very wholesome way. But he finally gives into his irritation. He's just like, when are we leaving? And Dwarf's like, hey, we're leaving in the afternoon. Just in case we get anyone else. I don't need any pissed off adventurers chasing down my car.
That is actually a very fair thing to do.
And sure enough, a few minutes later, approaches a wide and dense turtle with a few cloth wrapped on his arm and a scowl just as worn down. No axe and shield like in the picture, mind you. They all eventually get into the ride, but the turtle is quickly irritated by the kobold and gnome who introduce themselves as Tuscan and Frug, respectively. Carrick eventually shares his name, which gets a suspicious Dantu to also share his, but spends the next day watching Carrick intently. Later that night, after the cart stopped, everyone kind of camps out. Carrick goes around some nearby trees and bushes to redo his alter self spell, just transforming into a tiefling and then back into a half-elf, right as Dantu comes around the way. Dantu immediately questions Carrick's intentions and goals, which Carrick keeps quiet in a rather standoffish way. Dantu essentially threatens Carrick that if he tries to pull anything, that he's finished. Carrick ultimately complies, almost angry that he was threatened. They all move about their night, and the next morning, they're once again on the road in the cart. Frug and Tuscan are going on about some nonsense, much to Dantu and Carrick's dismay. However, noticing the cart stop, Frug looks ahead to a sleeping hill giant next to the path down the way, and Carrick tenses up. They ultimately decide to cautiously resume, after much pondering of what the best course of action would be. But the cart, moments later, is bludgeoned to pieces, killing the driver and Frug immediately, severely injuring Carrick, and freeing the horses, one of which has a broken leg. Dantu and Tuscan, who just barely break out at the other side, do not suffer the effects of it. They pass their dex saves. Dantu roars, charges what turns out to be 2 of 3 hill giants with his bare hands by himself. Tuscan revels in Frug's death, and he looks up to Carrick, who's severely injured. Stay back. Let me and that turtle handle this. Play dead if anything. And Carrick watches Tuscan as he's about to charge. You see Carrick trying with all his might to yell, and he's just like, no, I can help. As you can tell, he probably has a punctured lung of some sort. Carrick musters the will to get up on his feet, almost as if he heard something, whispering, Doldor, and follows Tuscan in as Tuscan approaches the third giant. Carrick jumps in front of Tuscan as Tuscan attempts to taunt the giant and casts Sanctuary on him. Tuscan frantically questions why he wouldn't use this on himself, and Carrick responds as the giant's pulling his maul back. My god pretty much told me I should die here. And the club flattens him, splattering Tuscan with Carrick's blood and viscera as it all goes black. And the projection ends. Naleek immediately what? No, that's not it. That's not it. He's a pit fiend now. He does things. He's a big bad. What? Where's the rest of it? Naleek's freaking out as he's approaching the table of the all-seer. He just slams his hands on the table. He's like, "You're not cheating me, are you?" It seems your friend has been revived because it seems your friend has perished. If his true name is different in his next life, the spell does not apply to that next life.
Damn.
Naleek sinks onto the table with his hands on the side of his head and just flops over onto the floor, just kind of limp and starpose, kind of lumbering over the tentacles and, please do move. I still do have sensory in my tentacles. And Naleek
Arudim is gonna help the lad up. He'll drag him if he has to.
He looks over to Tuscan, Dantu, Nala, Selva, and Grim. You can almost tell that he's hurt by how accurate that was. Like right now he was hoping that he could just be mad at you guys for lying to him. But everything you said was true in terms of he threw himself out there and died.
Well, to be fair, Bahamut said so. So, Arudim passively thinks, so why would his god tell him he needs to die?
He's affiliated with Tiamat, remember? Speaks up Tuscan.
So,
No,
well, yes, he's affiliated with Tiamat. Wasn't he still with Bahamut at that time?
No, you don't get it. Naleek's saying with a shaky voice, like, this means that this entire time he was worshipping Tiamat disguised as Bahamut. And who knows how common that is in Mindafal. Did you not see how toxic the behaviors of this country are now that I have an older and wiser perspective? Dolder literally threw away an entire platoon so it would look racially acceptable to this. Are you kidding me? I respected Doldor, but that really makes me question it when I see it in hindsight with a clearer mind. And it's just...
I mean, the sad thing is that I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by society. I'm not surprised by kingdoms. I'm not surprised by the racial tensions. And if I were in his position, I'd hate to say it, Naleek, but I probably would have done the same thing.
And Naleek looks up at you, hurt. The same look he was giving Doldor.
Now, if I could offer a piece of insight here. I hate to be the one to have to point this out, but did nobody else notice the very obvious sign? Naleek, you're 100% right. Look at the sigil of Mindafal.
Yeah.
Tails of the same red, green, blue, black, white colors that Tiamat is. Come on. If it's supposed to be Bahamut, why would there be the 5 colors? Why would there be no mention of the Platinum Dragon on the sigil?
Well, I can explain that. It's taught, well, at least what they teach us. It's meant to represent both sides of Eo. Mindafal was founded by the first king, and...
Was the intention supposed to be unifying chromatic and metallics?
Not necessarily. I mean, there were pipe dreams, but that was never truly seen as, like, an end goal realistically by the masses, but ultimately both sides of the coin were respected for the sake of dragonfolk unity. The idea of maybe some sort of allegiance being met, and that's why there are certain temples of Tiamat, especially in the main cities, because the idea of the city is fair. That's why the logo of the Mindafal flag is Bahamut symbol and Tiamat symbols put together, representing all 10 colors of the dragon. Because if you look at the banner, yeah, it has all 5 of the chromatic dragons, but the dragon emblem is copper, which represents our current king. Well, I suppose looking over it down to our most recent king, King Rogar. He is a copper dragon. The symbol prior was brass, and then before that gold, with the colors interchanging. And the slashes, the eye, the banner's background and lining are all of the metallic colors.
Metallic.
So, there is that. But
Copper,
I get what you're
brass,
saying.
Bronze,
That means that
silver,
Tiamat's influence is lurking throughout Mindafal, and it's likely had a larger influence on things, and I wouldn't be surprised if the king, Rogar himself, was somehow influenced by it. But that's probably a whole nother story on its own. Wink, wink. You see that Naleek has calmed down significantly while he was explaining the banner thing. It was almost like being nerdy helped take his mind off of how upset he was.
Low-key, it's adorable.
Guys, listen, if no one else wants to, that's completely fine. But I'm staying here one more day, and I'm coming here tomorrow to ask about Carrick the Ascendant. I need to know.
All's fair to you, my friend. Besides, you're gonna need us to know the whole story so that we can persuade him back.
Yeah, if that's even possible at this point. I don't know, he legitimately died thinking he was being a good person and thinking he was following in Doldor's footsteps. I'm so much in it. He respected Doldor so much more than he let on, because he whipped himself back into shape in memory of Doldor. Guys, it didn't show a lot, but Carrick was seriously depressed after Doldor's death. He unenrolled in the military. He slouched around doing nothing for days.
We were there.
You know what, you're right. And Nala's like, yeah, you literally just experienced a whole freaking lifetime.
Look, if I have to die trying to kill Tiamat so that your friend can, come back to his senses, I don't care. I don't really have much to live for anyway. However, I would like to say I don't think we can kill Tiamat. We'll probably have to find a way to sever her control over your friend.
Naleek looks over to Dantu and their group and she's like, how sure are you guys that this is some sort of alliance between the two and not a manipulation on Tiamat's part? Because it's seeming like it's a manipulation on Tiamat's part.
I can't tell you for 100% certainty. Because from the way it seems, if I can go back to that moment where he basically threw himself into death, it seemed like he was pretty determined to die. It seemed like there was a reason behind it. It didn't seem like it was just because he wanted to do it out of selflessness. I'm sorry to tell you that. Sorry to tell you if it hurts, but that's the way I saw it. I was suspicious of him for a reason. I don't think that his intentions were 100% good. Tuscan could probably say differently, but I shouldn't say anymore. I apologize.
No, you covered it pretty much, Dantu. To be honest, I did not get the same vibes that Dantu did, but we saw him after this in his elf form, watching us when we were competing in the Mindafal International whatever tournament, and he watched us until we noticed him. And for some reason, Tuscan looks up to Dantu. We just dismissed it, and he walked off. I think Dantu just chalked it up to being something similar to me, and I plugged it in the back of my mind, but I didn't think anything of it. But that was very clearly after he died, and that was not in this memory. So either that was an imposter, or that was him in his next life. That was years later, mind you. That was over 7 years later.
What did you all do with his body?
It was completely eviscerated.
I wore his blood in the battle against those giants, not touched once because of his sanctuary spell. I honored him in death because he was the reason I did not die then. I perished a few weeks later being consumed by a green dragon, which was a little bit of a PTSD flashback earlier when Naleek's groups were fighting them. What was that, 50 years ago? I don't know. How old are you, Naleek? I'm 81, and that wasn't exactly 50 years ago, but it was a while back. I couldn't tell you exactly when. That memory is a little more hazy for me than it probably is for him. Oh my god, and he just realized and he looks up to Cassius, Crantor, and Arudim. You guys could use this thing on me. Oh man.
I mean, we could, but, we just kind of hope that you would talk with us, let it all out, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess there are a few things I need to be a little bit more open and honest about.
That would be nice.
But
baby steps.
I think we just should. I'm gonna go find a place to stay and just sit down and soak this all in. You all can do whatever you want. Naleek says is still just kind of shrinking back into his shell. I'm probably just gonna go to that place we were staying at before. I don't know what. And he stops himself, trying to not be a moody bitch. And turns around and what are you all doing now? You going to Avernus? I can catch up with you.
There's no way I'm going to Avernus without knowing everything I can about this guy.
Wait, you want to know too? So I'm not alone on this?
Obviously, you're not alone on this.
Well, since you're also staying another day to ask, another question, ask more information about him.
Oh boy, I knew this was going to happen. Very well. I cannot have it my way all the time. And I was
don't worry, Tuscan, you can have the next one.
It doesn't matter. I would be asking the same questions as Naleek, so I think it is not a problem.
Neat. So, should I wait until after we finish this to do my question?
Well, I guess we gotta make a list. Dantu wants to ask about someone. You want to ask about someone?
At this point, I don't really care.
I don't think it's a problem. It's just like, you guys want to go through multiple people's lifetimes like that? Because that was a lot.
Arden just smiles. You thought that was a lot?
Honestly, I'm much better off not knowing.
I just need to make sure someone is still alive while I'm off on my escapades. That's really it.
You could just have somebody scry.
Probably wouldn't be the best idea.
Well, actually, Nala says, that's not a bad idea if you're just trying to see if someone's alive. Now, if you want to watch their whole lives, then yeah, this is the place to be. But, I mean, I don't know about you. I'm not gonna watch someone's whole ass life just to see if they die at the end.
Yeah.
Naleek is
I'm
such
gonna
a
watch his whole ass life just to watch him die at the end. What we literally just did.
Dude, I love Naleek. She's fun. She's really fun to roleplay. But with that being the case, I believe that would probably be a better time than any to call an end to the session.
Lord Dumb!
I want to thank all of you guys so much. First of all, for enduring that. Second of all, for enjoying that. I was so scared. I cannot tell you, I was so scared that this wasn't going to hit right. I actually squeezed it down a bit because obviously it was too long. But the whole D&D is supposed to be an interactive roleplay game. So when the DM just sits there and tells a story to their players, I feel like a lot of people think that that takes a lot out of the game. Granted, it is excusable narratively to an extent, but still, from an experience standpoint, if you guys weren't as into the lore as you were, that would have been a long hour.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, he's blue balling you until next Thursday.
He really is. It's probably gonna be longer than next Thursday. It's probably gonna be like a filler session.
No. We're going right next to that's why I specified Naleek just now. You guys don't have to stick around for it in a way. If players, you don't want to sit there for another hour-long lore dump like this just happened. You now know what you're getting into before you get into it. You know, doing it once and enjoying it is fine, but we don't want to overdo that play. You know.
True. But, like, any of us are going to leave Naleek
We could try to
behind.
break this up into, like, if you wanted, we could try to break this up into solo sessions that you could record.
Yeah, I have an idea of something like that along those lines. How also, some of them can be done off screen. Like, for example, with Tommy specified, he's going to be asking about person to see if they're dead. If he really does, unless the details of their life are that important, we can just sum up that it happened off screen and at the end he found out what he wanted to find out. You know,
yeah.
But for more important characters, more important NPCs you may ask out, or even each other, then that will take much more specification. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it. And yes, that peek behind the curtain, I wasn't going to have it split into 2 lives, but I was scared that it was going to be too long. And sure enough, with just the 1 life, it was like an hour and a half of the session. So I'm glad I did that. And it also makes sense because he is a different entity now with a different true name. And it'll make a little bit more sense next week. But yeah, it's good shit. I'm glad you got to see his meeting up with Tuscan and Dantu, because you guys want to know something? The end where he dies, that's the first session of the lore pilgrimage.
Why did it sound like the first session?
Definitely.
Because it was.
To me, I'm like, okay, Ragtag, like, Tuscan shows up, then Dantu shows up, so this is not only where he meets Dantu, but also where he meets his end. That's hilarious. I wonder if that tied into, like, their first session or session 0.
I mean, in the second session, Tuscan dies, so it does kind of set a tone for Dantu.
Poor Dantu. It's just like, man, these random strangers are really annoying, but, you know, they're random strangers. And then one willfully dies, and then the other one gets eaten by a dragon.
Gotten used to it by now.
You poor bastard.
You torturing yourself for this damn timeline. You're right, but it's worth it, damn it. Oh my gosh.
The good news is if Arudim somehow manages to learn what he is, his outlook and morals may drastically change.
Oh, and that's what I love about it. That's why I can't reiterate enough. I feel so bad of how little Arudim has gotten in the first half of this campaign. Like, he had the alignment change sub-arc within the first arc, but that was kind of it, and then he was just kind of who he was up until Celestia when his lore finally started getting dumped, and even now, just getting into Sigil is when a lot of his true background's coming to light, you know? And I appreciate that you're okay with that, because some individuals would feel kind of excluded up until that point. Alrighty, but that's gonna do it for us folks watching. We appreciate you swinging by. Take care.
Doing big things.
Have a good night. Peace.
That's all, folks.